If you enjoy this video, consider supporting us on Patreon for just $5 a month. Click on the card in the upper right hand corner for more information. Hey guys, this is Julian of Julian Gray Media. Sorry for the lack of videos these past few weeks. I was hanging out with Eddie and Blair Rouge from Mousetrap while they were in town. They're from Melbourne, Australia. They were visiting for like 2 weeks, so I just spent a lot of time with them and I didn't shoot a lot. I did manage to get a vlog, a podcast, and an interview out of it though, so if you want to check those out, you can click on a link in the upper right hand corner right now and I'll select one of those at random to put up there, and you can check out the rest on your own time. But today's video, we're kind of catching up, getting back in the swing of things. We're going to be going over my latest song, Resident Tryhard, named after the infamous autonomous video stream with Deadmau5 where he calls me a tryhard. And as a casual like poke of fun back to Joel, I called the song Resident Tryhard and used his voice in the song, and I auto-tuned it, and I did some cool stuff with that. I thought I would dive into the project because you guys seem to be liking this one. It's kind of like an electro-techno fusion, my coined genre that I kind of invented, progresso, if you will. It's just basically like super groovy electro-techno progressive house combination. But we're going to hop into the studio and check out the project in depth. We're going to dive in and see what's going on under the hood of this Mousetrap premiere. If you haven't heard the original song yet, you can click on the link in the upper right hand corner and check out Resident Tryhard on Mousetrap. But without any further ado, let's jump into the studio and get started. Awesome, guys. So this is the project for Resident Tryhard. The working title was Jamming Lead. This was like maybe November or December of last year, right before the autonomous stream, or maybe during that time. I don't exactly remember, but it was just an instrumental at the time, and I got that stream feedback from Joel, the tryhard thing, you're a tryhard or whatever, and I thought I had to use it in a song. So I put it in this song, and this is the result. Let's give this thing a listen. Maybe we'll break down some of the elements used in the song, and I'm sure you guys are keen to see how it was made. So let's give this a play, and keep in mind this is the unmastered version. On the actual mastered version, I had my friend 28mm Christian do a master for me, and that master was the master used on Mousetrap. So give a round of applause to 28mm. I'll link him down in the description below. Let's give this thing a play and break down some elements as we go. So the intro here, it starts on a 2. It actually starts on the second beat of the bar. I kind of did this so it kind of swings you into the actual song. It doesn't start you on a kick like a normal song would. It goes like that, and it swings you into the song. I did that with this little reverse clap here and reverse kick. If I solo these two together, you'll hear that. It's like a nice little top end noise and a reverse kick here, which is adding that sub. That kind of sweeps right into the kick drum, which is kick 2. And it's just basically a kick I developed. Pretty much the default kick, just modified. I modified the amplitude envelope and the click use. So here we are again. Sweeps into that kick. And right off the get-go, you can hear there's a white noise coming down. That's to kind of give this energy at the beginning to signify that, you know, the song's moving forward. And that's this right here. This is a white noise in Serum. I use the bright white preset noise, I guess, noise generation oscillator. And I used an auto filter here to sweep that down. As you can see, it sweeps over time. If I do the A button to toggle automation mode, you can see there's our white noise sweeps. Then going into a Valhalla, phaser, EQ, a Haas effect delay to kind of stereo separate it a little bit, because a white noise oscillator in Serum is very, very monophonic, and I like wider white noise, so I did this to stereo separate it a little bit, delaying the right and left channels. I have a sidechain compressor, as you can see right here, queued to above anything above that 2.5K, and then it's going to pull it down to -40, and it's at 100%, like a limit, basically, infinitely to 1 ratio. So we're getting a very, very hard sidechain on that noise. And I think I used that pretty much throughout. We'll see what I actually used in a moment. Quickly look at this percussion here. We have a tom, which is creating some syncopation in the low end. It's that doom. Let's solo it. Yeah, very cool. And then the clap right here, which is a Leviathan clap that I used. I pretty much used it stock. I just shortened it up a little bit and did an EQ curve on it. In this percussion bus, I also have some other things in here that are creating really cool effects. This little guy right here is that cool kind of like woodblocky sound you're hearing. I have an auto pan on that, so it's kind of moving around the stereo field as it goes. And yeah, they're just little glitch sounds that I use throughout to add a little bit of interest to the background noises. I have this tongue click that I have. If I go ahead and play it, there we are. And I have a little bit of OTT on that to give it some body, I'd say, and the top and mid. And this little pop, which is the counter to that tongue click. So that's that, and it's got the Haas effect as well. And if you listen on a stereo system, you can hear it slightly delayed on the right side, a little bit more than normal. I'm actually delaying 25 nearly milliseconds, and that's a big jump for the Haas effect. So it sounds almost like a zoom, like it's going from ear to ear, like that. Then I also have this hi-hat here, and these drums are pretty synonymous with the rest of the song too, not just the intro, so we don't really have to cover it in the drop itself as well. This hi-hat right here is the, let's see, main hi-hat, and I have it going into a delay bus with a 1 beat delay like that, 100%, and that's what's adding the otherwise without it, it would be like this. And it's going between the ears at a random pace, kind of 3/16 notes, makes it a very odd panning. It doesn't really resolve on the beat correctly, and that kind of creates this really weird sense of like something's off. I enjoy that in my hi-hats. So that's that. That's pretty much all of the percussion you're hearing. There's a ride that comes in at the end of bars like this. That's just literally a Leviathan ride with a cut fade out time and a similar curve again. I really like my drums that aren't the kick in this like similar fashion to this shape you see here. That's just kind of like the Julian EQ curve that I use for a lot of different things. The only other real drum element I use is this build-up snare, which is like a snare that I used, and then I think I modulated the velocity up, and then I sidechained it so it's going, and then it's going up, and then I have a 16th note snare right here that does like these weird syncopations. I'm sorry, that's actually another percussion I forgot about. The actual snare, let me see if I can find that. Somewhere around here. It's not in there. Is this it? Break? Nope. There it is. It's in the clap channel. And I'm just doing a very interesting syncopation here. If you notice, I go to the 8th note. It doesn't fall exactly. It's more like a 16th note. And it comes in almost in triplet format over the 4/4 beat, and that creates this really cool syncopation. Cool, so that's pretty much all of the percussion used in the song. I'm going to go ahead and collapse all of these for you here. Actually, I'll go ahead and collapse everything. We'll go into the bass sounds here. That's the more interesting stuff. These two aren't being used. It's just the generation tools. And I actually like to work in audio for my basses, so I'm going to expand all of these. I basically just froze these two and used little micro clips of them for these audio basses here. So let me go ahead and solo the bass channel so you can hear exactly what's going on down there. And again, this is just a freeze of this guy up here. So let's go ahead and solo this. And this bass looks a little something like this. Going into a multi-band compressor similar to an OTT. I'm not going to go too deep into the sound design, but there's that layer, and then there's this other layer, which is the moving bass. It's kind of like a bottom end. And the two of those together create this really cool sense of motion in the low end. I don't have too much going on here. I just have this very, very monoed. As you can see, 100% mono. Then I have a low pass on it and a compressor. Then there's a filter here. This is actually only being used in some places. When it breaks into the actual drop, it's completely open, and you can hear it here. Oops. And again, that's just a very bassy sound, not really used for creating the top end, more so just filling out the low end in like a club environment or something like that. Then I have these little moving bass sounds like this that kind of create this cool syncopation. I want to just say that this is a resample of one of these other basses that I basically just stretched out and then cut. As you can see, it's very stretched, the waveform, but this waveform does look similar to this. I probably just multiplied it by like 2 or 3 in this window here. And as you can see, I'm using tones with a decently small grain size to create this really gnarly, like stretched out tone. And then I have these wah-wah-wahs, which is this. And again, this is probably, I want to say, some sort of frozen audio sample. Actually, this one is a Leviathan bass one shot that I messed with to get to this. Then I have this little blip right here. It's from a Wolfgang Gartner pack, and I have the Haas effect going on that with some OTT on it. I don't really like to use like really raw samples, so if I do use samples like this, I want to try to disguise them into the mix a little bit more. I don't want to use them raw. I have it going into a tiny little bit of reverb before the compressor here, and that's what creates this like space to the sound. Nice little grains on the end of that too, right here. And then there's this little blip. I do not remember where I got this. I'm pretty sure I made this in Serum, and again, it's OTT'd, so it gives this really cool bass tone. So if I solo all these basses together and we play it from the drop, this is what it's going to sound like. And I think the key of getting this thing to sound good is to get the syncopation right. If the syncopation was off, it wouldn't really work with all these sounds. It's just that the way I wrote the bass line, the syncopation of the basses really does work well. So here is the moving bass. I only actually use this in like the B sections of the drops and the actual breakdowns. You can hear it here. It's like this little B section to cool off for a moment, and then it goes right back into it. And then I introduced this rising effect in this part here. I do this with Serum. So you notice that I have this set to 24 in the mod wheel. I have this 7 unison, which is creating this really nice, like, distorted, wide stereo image sound in detune, and I'm doing that here. And then, as you can see, I'm using the MIDI pitch bend to pitch bend that up as it goes, and that's what's creating that rising sound. I have a little bit of pan on it, and I have a side chain as well as a Haas effect to really stereo separate it and exaggerate that. Okay, we're getting close to the end here. Old, I'm not really positive what this is. Let's see. So I actually used the Ableton, one of the Ableton mallet sounds to generate this lead here. And then what I did was I froze it to audio and stretched some sounds out, just to create really cool syncopations, and I cut them manually like this instead of doing it in MIDI so that I can get the release times of the notes exactly where I wanted them. So that's how I got this. And sounds like this are just the notes stretched out to death, which is like this. But I believe I used one of the Ableton stock mallets to generate this. Okay. Let's continue on. Here is the lead. Oh, actually, here is the mallet I used, actually. It's right here. It's called Big Kalimba. I believe it's Collision that's doing that. I have some delay and compression, as well as some sidechain and some auto pan on this. And then I'm layering that with another synth here, which is doing like a fifth down from that. And that's creating this really cool, harmonious, like almost like a 90s era plucky lead sound. It's kind of been found in a lot of my more recent music. Cool, and then I have this counter melody here, which is that. So I did this with this simple serum patch here, basically a saw wave, 2 saw waves actually. The phase is just inverted on this one, and we're doing some fine-tune modulation with this LFO here. It's modulating that fine-tune pitch after a bar, as you can see here. 7 semitones up on this side, which is a perfect fifth, and that's what's creating that really cool harmonious sound. Here is the effects window. As you can see, we have a hyper, distortion flange, and reverb on it. I'm not going to go too far into that, but that's basically it. If you want to figure that out, you can pause the video and screenshot it or what have you. But we're not going to go too deep into the sound design. Here is another one. As you can hear, this one is a little bit more pure, and I think I actually used one of the presets in here and tweaked it a little bit to get this sound as you hear it in the song. So the next thing is this choir effect right here, and this is added in when that cool counter melody comes in. Kind of fills out the atmosphere of the room a little bit. I used a cabinet and a Valhalla room to set it into the atmosphere a little bit more. Simple delay for the Haas effect yet again. Again, my mixes are super duper loud. And I'm sorry, super duper wide, not loud. And I use this falling effect from a Leviathan pack. Let me see. I warped it up a few semitones to get it into key. And as you can hear, this is what it sounds like. And I use some Valhalla room to set it into the mix a little bit more, and I used an auto pan to really establish it in the stereo field. Again, my mixes are super wide, which is debatable if that's good or not. Some people tell me it's great, some people don't like it. I'm on the fence about it. I like it. But that's that, and I used this auto pan to kind of disguise the fact that this is again a sample, because when you start to pan it around the stereo field a little bit more, it becomes more or less recognizable, I should say. Here it is again. But the 3 of these combined sound really cool, I think, with this counter melody here. Creates this really cool like atmosphere around that lead right there. Let me solo this lead in again. Then it goes right back in. I'm going to go ahead and solo this basses too so you can hear it all together now, just the melody parts. Cool, and then I have this little synth fade, which is basically a reverse delay, frozen to audio, going into that nice mallet lead again. And that's pretty much most of the elements of this song. Of course, I used, and I have to save it for last, the dead mouse vocal from the stream. I managed to mix it in a way that it sounds okay. It was a terrible, terrible rip, like I would say like 192 kilohertz from Twitch, so I had to make it work. So what I did was I exaggerated that almost, and I added it as an effect. I destroyed the sound with OTT, and I high passed it a lot so we don't get a lot of the low rumble that was in the original clip. So here's the mouse sample.
Guys, Julian Gray, our local tryhard.
And in the mix it sounds even better because the small like background noise floor kind of disappears when the rest of the elements are in. And we have this right here, of course, the best part.
Like I said, it's our local tryhard.
And what I did was I actually took the clip and I warped it and I threw it into Melodyne, warped it and got it perfectly in pitch, and I made him rise his vocal like try hard, which was, I thought, a really cool like troll and poke back to Joel for calling me that. And I also have some OTT again and a high pass right there. And as you can see, it's warped, so it's perfectly on beat.
It's our local tryhard.
And in the context, this is what it sounds like.
It's our local tryhard.
That sounds pretty cool, I think. What is this? Reverse choir bit. Okay, so I used the choir sample again, the one I made earlier. I showed you guys that. That's actually a contact library from SoundIron, and I froze it, and then I actually reversed it and made it pitch upward like this with a transpose mod. And I actually freed the rate of this auto pan, and I pan it faster as it goes up, so you can see it here. Let's see the frequency of the speed. You can see it right here doing its thing. Then I also auto pan it up so it's not getting any low end. That's creating this really cool build.
With the fucking hot garbage.
And then of course this sample here, couldn't not use it.
With the fucking hot garbage.
And it's kind of like it comes in at like a weird time in the rhythm, and it creates this like da 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 and I think that works really well.
With the fucking hot garbage.
Cool. And that's pretty much the bulk of the song. Let me go through here to make sure I didn't miss anything. We covered the basses, covered the rising sound, the kick, clap, ride, percussion, and the hi-hats, and the lead. And yeah, that's pretty much the track. This is Resident Tryhard. It was a really cool track to make. I started it with that riff. The actual history of the song is it started with this. I'm sorry, not that. The this guy right here. Or actually, this one. It was just too cool not to use. And I eventually built the entire song around it. In the drops, I froze it like we discussed, and I warped it and stretched it and stuff. But that was where it started. Then the autonomous thing happened. That was really cool. And you can actually check out where the source material for this sample is in the description in the link in the upper right hand corner right now to check out the autonomous live stream video. And yeah, I heard that when Joel said that, I was like, I have to sample it, and I did, and they cleared it, and now it's on Mousetrap. So go buy it, money's good. I hope you guys digged this inside the project look at Resident Tryhard. If you did, give the video a like. If you didn't, give it a dislike. But let me know why in the comments below. Give me ideas for future videos down there as well. I try to take comments into account when making videos. If you leave a really cool comment, I'll feature it at the end of the video in the end card. And yeah, that's pretty much it. A lot of new music coming soon. Keep your eyes peeled for that. And I'm Julian of Julian Gray Media. Make sure to subscribe for new videos. I make several a week when I'm not out with Eddie and Blair Rouge. And I will talk to you in the next one. Bye-bye.